I didn't react when the HOA president slid the violation packet across my table and claimed I was encroaching on community land. I didn't correct her. I didn't even lift my eyes. I simply rotated the certified county survey I had commissioned, the one stamped by the senior land engineer, so she could read the highlighted section herself. The moment her eyes landed on the measurement confirming that 42% of her house foundation sat entirely on my parcel, her face drained of color. She whispered, "I don't think you understand what this means," but I did. I had been waiting weeks for her to say it. Before any of this, my life in Ridgepoint Estates was peaceful in a way I appreciated deeply. I bought my modest, cedar-sided home because it sat on one of the oldest plots in the development, a strange, L-shaped parcel created decades before the HOA existed. The odd boundary line wrapped quietly behind a couple of newer homes, giving me privacy and a bit of wild space where deer wandered at dusk. I wasn't the type to care about HOA politics. I wanted to work on my woodworking in the shed, grow herbs, drink coffee on the porch, and be left alone. And for 10 quiet months, that's exactly how things were. The first warning sign came in the form of a folded notice shoved under my doormat. It declared, "Unapproved structure located on common property, remove immediately." The attached photos made me pause. It was my tool shed, the small, weathered structure tucked behind a hedge and present on the property since the 1980s. I assumed there was some clerical error and emailed the HOA, politely explaining the shed was explicitly included in my deed. Their response arrived in 3 minutes. "We have confirmed the shed sits on HOA land. You're out of compliance? No evidence, no explanation, just arrogance." Then the second notice came, then a third, then fines, and something in me quietly shifted. I attended the next HOA meeting, still thinking reason might prevail. The president, Linda, though everyone called her Karen, informed me, without looking up, "Your shed is 6 feet over the line." I asked what survey they were relying on. She told me, "Our records," when I requested to see them. She simply said, "No." That one word told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about facts. It was about control. A week later, the HOA began photographing my yard daily. Neighbors suddenly avoided eye contact, fines escalated, and then the final message hit my inbox. "HOA will conduct its own survey of your property." That didn't intimidate me, it educated me. People confident in their position show evidence. People unsure of their position hunt for it. That's when I stopped arguing and started reading. I pulled out every closing document, the thick stack of surveys. Plats, maps, and legal descriptions I had barely skimmed when I bought the home. The more I read, the more inconsistencies appeared. The deed clearly stated that my property extended past the hedge line and then curved behind Linda S. house, forming that narrow, forgotten strip. The OA had assumed it was common land. They never confirmed it. At the county office, I found the original parcel maps. The clerk even remembered prior disputes about this exact strip. They thought it was an error, she said, but the surveyor stood by it. I requested a certified copy. Then I hired the best surveyor in the county. He walked the land with lasers and equipment for hours. When he returned with the report, he didn't mince words. My shed was exactly where it belonged. But Linda's house wasn't. A significant portion, not inches, but multiple feet, sat directly on my land. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, but out of disbelief. They had bullied, threatened, and fined me for months without ever checking the most basic legal boundary. I printed every photo, email, timestamp, and violation notice. Then I waited. 2 weeks later, the HOA arrived with their hired surveyor. Linda stood proudly, arms crossed, ready to prove I was the problem. When their surveyor asked to access the strip behind her house, she snapped that it was a property. I handed him my certified parcel map. He examined it, then said quietly, "No, it's his." The silence among the board members was almost physical. After several more measurements, the surveyor handed Linda the results. Her hands trembled. "This has to be wrong," she whispered. "It's not," he replied. "Part of your house sits on his land." She spun toward me, eyes panicked. You need to fix this?" I nearly laughed, but instead I walked inside, retrieved my own survey, and placed it calmly on the table. She asked, voice cracking, what I wanted. The answer was simple, to be left alone, but leverage mattered. So I laid out my terms. I wouldn't pursue back rent for the land her home occupied. I wouldn't file an encroachment suit. I wouldn't involve the county. All I wanted was written confirmation that my shed and boundaries were not to be challenged again. All fines waived. All violations erased. Their unauthorized survey destroyed. She signed everything without hesitation. I signed nothing. It was calm, quiet, and absolute. The aftermath was swift. Linda resigned from the board for personal reasons. 2 other board members followed. The HOA suddenly became gentle, flexible, even polite. Fines across the neighborhood vanished. Inspections evaporated. Neighbors who once avoided me suddenly waved again, though some did so cautiously. Rumors spread, of course, whispers that I owned part of the former president's house. I never confirmed anything. I didn't have to. My shed remains exactly where it always belonged. The narrow, shaped strip behind the houses sits untouched, exactly as the old farmer's map intended. Sometimes at dusk I walk back there. The air settles, the property is quiet, and I think about how hard they pushed, how certain they were, and how all it took to end the entire war. Was reading my own paperwork. Now the HOA leaves me alone. Everyone does.